Hey guys, welcome to Your Best Interviews. My name is Eric Smith. Thank you so much for spending the time here with me. I know that there's a lot of places that you can go, so I appreciate you spending the time here. Today, what I want to talk to you about is talking too much in the interview. So this is probably the number one thing that hurts people in the interview process, and it's very, very coachable. This is something that you can coach yourself out of. It doesn't happen for everyone. Not everyone talks too much in the interview, but it is a very, very common mistake that a lot of people make. And so I wanted to bring it up as a piece of advice and give some tips on how you can self-correct that if you're somebody who tends to get long-winded in the interview process. So the reason that this is a problem is most interviews are about 30 minutes, right? Now, if you're interviewing, if you're doing an all-day interview, that's fine. But typically when you're meeting with just one person, your interview tends to be about 30 minutes, maybe 60 total, and then you'll meet with somebody new. So you need to be really aware that that time is really precious because they have a lot of questions that they want to ask you to really understand, are you the best person for the position or not? And so they're going to ask you a series of questions. And what happens is when they ask a simple question like that, usually the first question that comes out in the interview is, tell me about yourself. If you haven't practiced this and you're not really succinct in your answer, it's easy to start just flowing and not know where you want to start, where you want to end. And then you start thinking about, well, I got to make sure that I'm sharing all the relevant pieces so that they get a well-rounded view of me. And before you know it, you're talking for 5 minutes on one question, the tell me yourself question. I've actually seen people in a 30-minute interview eat up 15 minutes on the tell me about yourself, that first question. So this is something that you need to be aware of, that if you tend to get long-winded, if you're not sure where to start and stop, these are things that you can practice and coach yourself out of kind of that over-talking or talking too much. Because what ends up happening is if you start going on this tangent and your answers get really long, what happens is the interviewer starts to lose you, right? They start to kind of disengage from the interview. And the longer you keep going when they're ready to ask that next question is just more of a red flag that you're not self-aware. So you need to be really, really careful when you're practicing. And this is why you should be practicing with other people, is make sure that you're keeping your answers as succinct as possible. Keep it tight. You want to make sure you're getting across all the necessary information, but that you're not rambling on. How you can prevent yourself from doing this, one, is you have to identify, are you somebody who gets long-winded? And sometimes you have to ask people that are close to you that might have a better idea because, again, we don't always know that we're long-winded. I know personally I'm a long-winded person, and so I have to actively think about how to chop up what I want to say into the most important pieces and get it across in a really tight, succinct way, right? And so it's, if you're not sure if you're that person, you should ask your friends, ask your coworkers, ask your family, hey, do I tend to get long-winded when I'm answering questions? And if the answer is yes, then you need to really practice it. But also, as you're practicing for your interview, you should be going through interview questions ahead of time and practicing what your actual answer would be to those out loud. And you can time yourself when you're doing this, but you should also be practicing in front of somebody else and tell them, hey, if I get long-winded or if I start going on this tangent, stop me. I need to know, because it's really hard when you're giving your answer to know, are you actually going too long, right? And so how I recommend doing this is practice with somebody, but then also give yourself a time limit, right? So for these type of questions that you're going to get asked, tell me about yourself. This is a really important first question that can really set up the rest of the interview. So you don't want to get too long-winded, but you want to also make sure that you're hitting all the important parts. Script it out. Write it out. Write out everything that you want to cover, right? Maybe it's just bullet points. Maybe you're scripting the whole thing out, and that's fine. But you want to make sure that you're scripting what the important elements are that you want to get across, and then start practicing it and try and get that in less than 2 minutes, maybe less than a minute and a half if you can, right? And so you're trying to give that 30,000-foot view of who you are and, most importantly, why you're sitting in front of them today and for that job. But the other side is you want to make sure that you're practicing your answer so that you can control how long you're speaking for in that interview question. These are some of the most important things that you can do, especially also when you're going into behavioral-based questions. This is where they're asking you open-ended questions about how you overcame a challenge, how you worked with a difficult person, these type of things. practice your answer around those. Those tend to get long-winded as well. So just think about that. And when you're practicing all of your answers, really think about what are the most important elements. And maybe the most helpful tip is bullet out what you want to say for each question. So if you've got a list of, 50 interview questions that you're practicing, have a list of, maybe there's 3 points that you want to hit on for each answer, or 2 points, or one, whatever that is. But the most important thing is just be able to reference quickly what is the most important thing that I need to get across, and then time yourself, right? So that you're controlling your answer and you're forcing yourself to be aware when you're going over that time limit. Because when you get into the actual interview, it's easy to riff. But if you've practiced it, if you're self-aware of how long your answer should be, or what, that feeling of maybe I'm going a little bit too long, it helps you wrap up the answer and allows them to ask you more questions to really assess, are you the right person? So what I'm advising you to do is find out first, are you somebody who gets a little bit long-winded? Can you find that out from close friends, relatives, coworkers? And then practice. You have to practice. Script out your answers to a lot of the questions that you are going to expect, that you're fairly certain you're going to get. Script it out and then practice it in front of somebody. Practice it with a timer to make sure that you're controlling your answers, keeping them tight. This will help you. I promise you, it'll show that you're self-aware, but most importantly, it doesn't raise any red flags. And the whole point is to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward to get the job that you really want. So practice this. Don't get too long-winded in your answers. And, again, you're going to improve your odds of getting the job that you really want. Guys, hopefully this was helpful. Sorry if I got long-winded in this, but this is a really important one. And again, one that's probably most common error that most people make is just getting long-winded in their responses. So appreciate you sticking with me. Good luck. Check out all the links below. Check out all my videos and hit subscribe. I drop 2 videos every week, Monday and Wednesday. The whole point is giving you tactical interview prep to help you improve your odds of getting the job that you really want. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you and good luck.